Hey everybody, I told you I wanted to do a video on the makeup of the internet and the web. The lecture does a pretty good job of introducing these topics to you, but I think it's important enough that we actually dedicate an entire video to this. Why? Well, most people think that they're the exact same thing, the internet and the web. It's just two different words that mean the exact same thing. And I think kind of in our public lexicon, that's how people view it now. That's actually not the case though, all right? Internet and web are actually different things, but they're both necessary to each other. So when you go online and you're searching around on YouTube, or you go to Walmart's website to buy something, or you check out a friend's blog, or you go on Spotify to listen to some music while you're working, you go on Blackboard, you're on the web, okay? But the web is propped up by the internet. So this is what we're looking at. The internet really, kind of like hardware and software. You remember that from a couple weeks ago. The internet is all of that hardware, all of that tangible stuff that allows the web to kind of sit on it. So when we think of the internet, we think of things like your modem in your router that allows you to have Wi-Fi in your home. We think about routing stations. We think about cable towers. We think about satellites. We think about the literal thousands and thousands of miles of cable all over the world that basically links up this internet. So the internet is all these interconnected networks. But they need to be connected somehow, and they're connected with all this kind of tangible stuff. The whole thing about the cable is true. Thousands of miles under the oceans, laying at the bottom, you have these cables that help to connect these networks, okay? And more of this, of course, is wireless. But that's what the internet is interconnected networks, literally millions and millions and millions of them. So when you are on Blackboard, your local area network at home, your Wi-Fi, is connecting with the network that runs Blackboard, for our school. That is the internet. The web are all those pages, all those kinds of things that we can interact with that sits on the internet, okay? So you see how there is kind of this hardware, software kind of thing going here as well. We've got the internet, and that's necessary for the web, but the web is really all the stuff we interact with on the internet, if that makes sense, okay? So that's the way I want you to start looking at it, okay? The internet is that concrete hard stuff, right? And then the web is all the software that runs on it, okay? Now the web itself is a fascinating thing. It's growing every single second of every single day. Can't even tell you how many billions now of websites and web pages there are out there. I mean, it's growing every single day. But the web itself is broken up into a couple of, different areas. So the things that you search for on Google or on Bing or on DuckDuckGo, that's another very, very popular browser. It's one that not browser, but search engine that I use all the time. That's what would be called the surface web. All the things that can be searched through search engines is a surface web. Search engines actually will kind of index. They have these algorithms that basically index all these different web pages, but they're ones that are basically able to be searched and indexed. That is the surface web, okay? The interesting thing is the surface web is a tiny, tiny portion of the web. It's tiny. We're talking single digits, 3, 4, 5%. The overwhelming majority of the web is what's called the deep web. Now, there's nothing sinister about this. People think deep web and they think, oh my gosh, that's where people go to buy guns and drugs or something, right? No. The deep web is what you're on when you're on Blackboard, when you sign into Blackboard, when you sign into your bank to do your banking, when you sign into Netflix or Sling or whatever it is that you use to stream content through your television. That's the deep web. Okay? The deep web is also where banking information and social security information and all sorts of things are housed, okay? This is stuff that's encrypted. This is stuff that is password protected. That's the deep web, okay? Now the sinister stuff that people kind of worry about because they see it on an episode of Black Mirror, or something on TV, is what is often called the dark web. And that's a portion of the deep web, or it's portions. It's not like one certain location, like a state in the country or something. But this is where you're going to find probably a little bit more of that sinister, sketchy stuff that you hear about. And this is These are basically networks that are further encrypted and don't just allow anybody on there. Usually you need a special kind of browser that will be hiding your privacy and your location in order to access some of these networks. And this is where you will find, some things like, political dissidents, people who can't speak freely in China or Iran. They'll go on the dark web and kind of correspond with each other. But this is also where you're going to find a lot of that kind of scary stuff where people are buying drugs or guns, or they're engaged in a whole lot of really bad, illicit, behavior. I don't need to, your mind can travel there. So that is a part of the deep web. But I just want you to get an understanding of these different things: surface web, deep web, dark web, and then internet, right? And web. So hopefully this gives you a better understanding, kind of how to frame everything that we're talking about this week. I hope it's helpful. If you have further questions, though, folks, you know where to reach me. Thanks.